Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome everyone to Introduction to Industrial Engineering. And today's lecture, in this session, we will discuss human factors and safety. As we discussed earlier, there are 5 areas that we will cover in the Introduction to Industrial Engineering. And one of them is the human factors and safety. Human factors and safety, as the other 4 areas, contain of methods, techniques related to the objective or to that big umbrella or area. And some of those methods or techniques that we cover under this area is work study, is very common. Ergonomics and human factors, they always come together. Motion elements, safety, work sampling, performance rating, work design, productivity ratio, workflow patterns, human-computer interaction, HCI. All these, either a technique, whether it was a method or a sub-discipline itself, those covered here in your journey under this area. For example, you will take a course named work study, and you will learn some of those techniques like work sampling, work design, performance rating, and those techniques also including productivity ratio. Also, you will take a course ergonomics named ergonomics, and this course including the human-computer interaction, also the human factors. There is an elective course also for the safety. So these whether methods or techniques, you will explore them in more details later when you take the courses under the area of human factors and safety. Today, we'll just touch the surface or the base of this area, and we will start by defining the major names that related to this area, the human factors and the ergonomics, as well as later about the safety. The human factors is a discipline that tries to establish the relationship between technology and the human. For example, your interaction between a machine and you as an engineer, this relation or interaction considered to be under the study of human factors, in a way that how the interaction, the difficulty and the simplicity of the interaction between you and the machine, the safety between you and during the interaction between you and the machine, your behavior during the interaction between you and the machine. Human factors deal with the human behavior, abilities, limitation to the use of software, tools, and other jobs to make their use easier. So they understand the limitation of the human, whether a physical limitation or emotional limitation or any other capabilities or abilities to the human behavior, related to the human behavior. So they study that, and they develop the analyze the relation in order to develop and make the job between the human and the machine interaction are easier. Whereas in the ergonomics, which is very related to this concept, but slightly different, but both of them work together. Well, the word ergonomics, a term, created from the 2 Greek words, ergon, the ergon nomi. The ergon means the work, and nomi mean the natural laws, so is the laws of work. And here we study, or we focus on the application of the scientific methods, data, drawing from a variety of disciplines, to the development of engineered systems in which people play significant roles. Pay attention here, this word, people. The people is the focus even for the ergonomics. The different here is the application And here is the establishing the relationship or analyzing the relationship. But working whether in the application or establishing the relationship or analyze it, you need to both of them in order to come up with a design, whether for a product or for a system or for a workplace, that consider the people is the significant element in that system or in that working environment or working interaction. So the ergonomics and human factors works together in understanding the human behavior, the ability and the limitations, and use that for developing methods or developing applications, whether a device or systems or even working methods, to considering that the human is a major role, playing major role in that system you are designing. What the human factor ergonomics engineers do, they use the system to analyze approach for considering that the humans interaction, as we say. So they analyze systems. For example, your system, whether it's a manufacturing system or service systems, they analyze it and they see where is the human interaction comes into the process or the operations of the system. The focus on the human operators to determine what they are required to do, achieve system goals. So when you analyze the steps، يعني انت بتحلل الخطوات ولا العمليات اللي بيكون فيها تداخل مع الهيومن. Why? First, you want to find how you can evaluate and analyze the requirement that for the system and how I achieve it through analyzing the human interaction with these steps. فأنا عندي الsystems له goals، سواء service or manufacturing or designing. During this system process or operations في الخطوات والعمليات، أحتاج أحلل تداخل العنصر البشري فيها حتى أصل لأهداف النظام أو المنظومة نفسها. Humans are critical system component، عنصر جدا مهم في any system, and humans have certain capabilities and limitations, and those capabilities and limitations of the humans are different than the machine. There you will see the specification to understand or let's say have an absolute kind of constraints or limitation or tolerance. For the human, it's kind of wide and you have to study it in different aspects to understand it. The system must be designed with an understanding of the human component subsystems requirements, and that's why the human component or the human requirements are different than the machine's requirements. Machines, let's say, need power, need material to work. Then there is a frequent operation or maintenance. There is a troubleshooting that is specified. There is a tolerance specified, like a manual, okay? For the human, the requirements are different. So you have to understand the requirements and the limitation and the capability of the human as they are playing a major role in your system, so you can achieve your system goals and also you fulfill the human requirements that caused due to their capabilities and limitation. For example, here, this is a workstation design. In the human factor concept, we study the interaction between the workstation and the human. Now, we don't have to have a machine or a technology. The interaction between this asset and the human it's already an interaction needs to be analyzed and studied. So the human factor, they study them. The ergonomics, they come with designs or applications or method on how this interaction can become more effective and for both the systems and for the human who is interacting with this workstation. So, for example, distributing of the work in the workstation, considering this distance of 50 centimeters maximum range, okay, from the human, and considering also the distance here in the width to be 160 centimeters as a standardized work. Why? So you can divide, تقسم العمل أو تجزئه based on the frequency of work بناء على تكرار أو احتياجك لهذا العمل. Usual work, العمل الدائمي اللي أنا أحتاج أشتغل عليه, you have it in this zone within 25 centimeter close, so the hand movement will be close and that will reduce the fatigue over the time, يعني الإجهاد والتعب مع تكرار العمل, خصوصا if we are repeating this work it's a repetitive work. Now for the occasional work, that's less than the usual work, you do it in a further distance, for example to 50 centimeters. The things that non-working area, they call it, that's for the things rarely you do, or maybe you don't use them as much, but you need to have them kept around, so you keep them in a further distance, so they will be not first interacting with your working occasional working area for the occasional work, or the zone where it's the usual work, and you give the priority for those because those the most frequent for the worker and the workstation. So his movement, it will be reduced, and that will affect many things, the productivity, and it will affect also the health over the time and years in working station. Some jobs, يعني بعض الوظائف بيكون repetitive daily hours, you are sitting on such workstation in a production line to do a certain tasks over and over and over. فتكرار هذا العمل بطريقة خاطئة أو خلينا نقول is not يعني wrong, but not considering the ergonomic and the human factor concept, it may cause over the time injured or fatigue or even stress or uncomfortable to the human. And as we said, the human requirements are different than the machine. الإنسان لما يتعرض لضغوطات يعني أو عدم الراحة في المكان، أو ضغوطات وعدم الراحة دي another chapter. يعني we can spend courses and we need maybe sociology and psychological departments to come also and help with us. لكن we are talking here about the interaction with your workstation specifically. فالتفاعل ما بين الإنسان هنا ومنطقة العمل, if it was not designed properly using the human factor and ergonomic concepts, may cause a stress or fatigue or uncomfortable employee. وده الشيء, it leads to what? It leads to variability in the productivity, different than the machine. The machine, they are not affected يعني in such manner, or ما يتأثروا بنفس هذا المبدأ. Here, something that could be physically or it could be emotionally due to the movement that not comfortable to your working station. So it could cause over the time variability in the performance. So this is how depth goes down, human factor and ergonomic design, and how it's even interacting when you will see with the operations engineering or operations systems. When you design your processes, you consider that. When you do the facility layout, which will be covered in the manufacturing systems, you consider that. Also, when you cover the quality control, when you do lean implementation اللي هو reducing waste, and one of the waste is the motion, unneeded motion. That's mean a waste, هدر في عمليات. يعني if the usual work distributed in this area, the motion, it will be increased to achieve every time the needed work, where it's when it's here, the motion, it will be reduced. Okay, so this kind of work design or work design concept, and using the human factor or ergonomics, interact with all the other aspects of the industrial engineering. And again, we emphasize that many times, the industrial engineering is integrated, is unite, all the sub-measures or the areas are integrated with each other and feed each other. So here it's feeding the manufacturing systems to be more safe to the employee. It's more effective, more efficient, improve quality and productivity, reduce waste. The operations will be more utilized and optimized. You see how we are giving terms that you may see them in other areas in the industrial engineering, and they are all related to each other. Okay, moving on with the human factor and ergonomics. What ergonomics engineer or human factors will help to do, or what they help in? They help in improving the quality, as we just said, by reducing the waste, improving the productivity of the employee, and reducing the variability, maintain a healthier workforce. يعني الموظفين او الناس اللي بيكونوا يشتغلوا عندك بيكونوا يعني صحيين اكثر, less fatigue, less injured. And this is exactly the third one, reduce the injured and the illness في rates. Workers feel good about their work, يعني they enjoy their work and feel good about it. Reduce workers compensation cost, اللي هو التعويضات المالية that comes from the medical insurance or injured during the work. So all these compensation, it will be reduced when you consider the ergonomic engineer and human factor in your designs of whether your layout or your workstation or your product that you are using, where the human are interacting with them. For example, here now, this is an ergonomic design example. This is a chair ergonomically designed for the human, based on the human's body structure, where is the spinal cord, اللي هو خلينا نقول العمود الفقري كيف انحنائه, عملية إسناد الرقبة, adjustable headset, adjustable lumbar support بيكون للlower back, there is support, cushioning here, also it's adjustable arms, so the arms will be comfortable depend on the position that they are sitting. طبعا اللي هو العجلات الدائرة, وكمان هنا there are usually swivel أو اللي هو lever adjusted, بيعطيك اللي هو الانكلاين للتشير, فبيكون في إمكانية لإرجاع الكرسي للخلف حتى there will be comfortable to the back for sitting longer time. Sometimes also they put on the floor foot support, يعني بتعطي incline للفوت فتعطي posture أو وضعية أفضل. This is ergonomic design considered only for a chair. So imagine how devices or component that or tools, the human will interact with them during the work if they are ergonomically designed, and the human factor consider the analysis or the interaction between the human and his working station with the equipment related to the working station, like the monitor where it should be placed, not further up or down, the angle where the head of the human to be steady, so he doesn't have to bend down to look, or bend over to look it up. You see the foot support that I was talking about, how the keyboard and the arm support. انتوا بتشوف هنا يمكن في واضح معنا في الصورة انه there will be support to the wrist or the arm, the chairs as we were explaining. So the human factor, they analyze this interaction, and the ergonomic do the application of designing devices that fit the job needs and the human also needs, and considering the capability and limitation of the human. Okay. Physiological aspects of human performance are the human, يعني by nature their bodies are limited. ما احنا machine، احنا human, and even from a person to person maybe this varying a little bit, but in general there is a limitation for the human body. Okay. The ability to perform various types of motor activities، يعني مهام يحتاج لها تحرك أو تحريك للجسم، depend on physical structure. حيكون معتمد، this will be the ability to perform، يعني القدرة انك تؤدي عمل بالشكل هذا. It will depend on your physical structure، البنية الجسمانية او العظم اللي هو السكيلتون حقك، السكيلتال muscles اللي هو البنية العضلية، النيرفس سيستم النظام اللي هو العصبي في الجسم، الميتابوليك بروسيس اللي هو عمليات يسموه الايض او التمثيل الغذائي، الموبيليتي ability to move، قدرة على التحرك. all these are يعني we cannot consider that يعني human will be able to perform those activities if we don't consider those things. We have to consider them when we require a job that needs motor activities. فإحنا here depend on the motor activities, those requirements or specification will be different. let's give an example. في بتشوفوا يعني خلينا نعطي example for those people staff, they work on the airport to carry the luggage and put them on the conveyor. That's why airlines have restrictions for the weight of the luggage. طبعا for the fuel economy of the airplane هذا something يعني different، لكن we're talking also for the safety here for those people who's going to work in carrying or need to carry those baggages from the conveyor to the jet to the airplanes, or يعني vice versa. So this type of job, it will need motor activity, but the specification is different than when I'm talking about let's say a teacher. Okay. He will need a motor activity somehow, but the level of the motor activity is different. They both depend on these factors, but the level is different. Okay, so here give you an example how the human body and the biological characteristics of our bodies are limited. Regardless, we are not talking about the maximum and lower, we're talking it's limited at the end. Even if you have you are a strong person, you have a strong physical structure, skeletal muscles، يعني كنت إنسان يعني معضل وقوي وهذا برضو you have limit. Okay, the same for example if you have some disabilities also you have limits. But any job that needs motor activity will depend on these factors. This is an example of a posture and how the effect of static effort on energy consumption، يعني الاستهلاك الطاقة في الجسم كيف change by only a static effort. We're not talking now about dynamic. يعني if you are just standing over there and having your purse or your bag hold in this way on your right, let's say hand, that will use 241% of your oxygen consumption over a long time of standing. Whether if you put the bag on the shoulder crosswise, like this way, this will reduce the consumption of the energy, and it will be 182 for the oxygen consumption. If you put the bag balanced between your two shoulders, that will be reduced compared to those two postures, and it will use oxygen consumption, or the oxygen consumption percentage will be 100% from 241. What we are trying to say here في حتى الستاتيك effort، يعني اللي هو الافورت اللي ما يحتاج لحركة لكن بيكون عندنا effort على البادي حتى هو جالس أو واقف. لاحظ يعني الجلوس لفترات طويلة، even if you are driving, maybe you tried to drive or do a road trip and you drive for long hours, 8 maybe hours, you need to do some kind of stretching standing after few hours to remove the static effort of your body on your lower back, especially عاد يعني هذا it will be accelerated and the time for that stretch will be needed shorter if you were not sitting properly in your driving seat. كنت عامل المقعد والمسافة ما بينه وبين الدركسون والبدلز حق البنزين والفرامل بمسافة أو بطريقة غير ergonomics، ما بتساعد إنه الجسم بيكون في وضع راحة. this حيسرع عملية الإجهاد الستاتيك to your body due to the physics. ليش؟ لأنه البادي بيضغط على lower back فبيسبب لك آلام في أسفل الظهر مع الجلوس لفترة أطول. ولو and if you put that seats and you put your seating position in خلينا نقول in the ergonomic way ولا in the right way، لأنه برضو depends on your seat, how the level of comfort of your seat, and even if you put it in the خلينا correct position, after time the concept of, for example here, the oxygen consumption or the energy consumption, it will reflect, but it will reflect in a different that this concept here لأنه here there is an extra load, but that will be your body load will be impacting on some of your back posture or lower back muscles or disc. Okay, فإحنا we're talking about static here. The same here for this concept. شخص واقف وبيحمل شنطة، أن طبعا the weight of this bag will affect definitely, and this is another study, how the ratio between the weight and the human maybe skeletal muscles or nerve system capabilities are correlated. كيف لهم علاقة. This is a study, you can do it, you can analyze it. Okay, لكن here we're talking you carrying a bag in this posture شايلها بيد واحدة، فبيكون there is unbalanced in your muscle and in your skeletal structure because you are trying to hold something here from one side and the other side is free, so is going to be trying to adapt that over time, and that will consume energy from your body. طبعا هنا حتقول لي okay, I'm put it on my shoulder, but again the balance between your shoulder weight or خلينا نقول اللود of your shoulder على الحمل على أكتافك is not balanced between the two shoulders. حيكون أقل لا شك. You see there is a big difference between here and there, but also is not like when you have a balanced load on your shoulders. وكمان لو كان هذه يا سلام الشنطة فيها يعني back support يكون يمكن أفضل الكونسمشن، لأنه some bags they have a back support when you put them on your some of the backpack when you put them on your two shoulders. This is, you see how deeply in the industrial engineering you look to the things, you look for even the human interaction, the human physics, the human body. يعني you can go in details in this area اللي هو human factor or the ergonomics to interact or maybe work with physicians or doctors to design product that meet the doctor's needs and the physician's needs to treat the patients, or also you design product that, for example, meet the patient's requirements. For example, يعني خلينا نقول الجوينت اللي هو replacement اللي هو مفاصل الصناعية الأطراف الصناعية. This is another يعني area where you can even specialize after you graduate and you study in this area further, and you interact with biomedical engineer to design and use the concept of the human factor and ergonomics for engineering design. طيب. Let's go to this example here. This example has something different and shows how the physiological aspects of human performance are affected. But here also in static muscular effort in the left arm, if you see the left arm here, and here when that bag they are doing like collecting maybe in the farm في المزرعة بيحصدوا المحصول, holding the basket in your left arm in this way, it will be a harder work pulse to the body compare when it's hanged to the shoulder. طبعا if you could come up with a way or a product or steps or يعني system that can remove the load from the human, it would reduce the work pulse definitely more. لكن I'll hold on one arm in this way, it will be impact on the body and the muscles effort more than this posture. So this was an example how the human factor and the ergonomics study and analyze the physiological aspects of the human performance. We will study now, or we will explore more a little bit in some of the methods or some of the sub areas in the human factors and safety, which is the work study. Work study, you cover it in a separate course. As I said, you will spend a whole maybe semester to learn about work study concept. Here we will just give you an idea what is the work study. The work study is a systematic examination of the methods of carrying on activities to improve the effective use of resources and to set up standards of performance for the activities being carried out. طيب. Let's take it one by one. Systematic examination فهو عمل تقييمي أو تحليلي منتظم للأنشطة والأعمال ليش بنسوي هذا التقييم أو التحليل لهذه الوظائف أو الأكشنز أو الأكتيفيتيز to improve the effective use. إيش يعني improve the effective use للريسورسز؟ الافشنسي أو الفعالية من استخدام الموارد تكون أفضل. كيف؟ Go back here. الريسورسز، isn't this resources؟ هذه الأشياء والأدوات اللي بتستخدمها ما هي resources in your work؟ استخدامها بشكل أمثل. This is one of the objective of work study. Also to set up standards. إيش يعني to set up standards? This is more important than the previous one because this can come up with also, as we said, in the ergonomic design, but this one is very important. Set up standards of performance for the activities being carried out. This is very critical. If you don't have it in your process or your operation, that one of the major reasons you have variability in the process. أعطيكم مثال بسيط جدا بتشوفوا في حياتكم. When you go to coffee shop، يعني معظمنا خلينا نقول يعني معروف مبيعات خلينا الأغذية بشكل عام والمشروبات اللي هو الكافي والقهوة يعني billions spent in Saudi Arabia. You go sometimes to coffee shop and you can apply this to restaurants. And you go to small coffee shop and you compare that maybe to خلينا نقول franchise or big names in coffee shops. The variability of the taste, sometimes you can over the time and do that analyzing over time between them. The variability، التغير في المذاق يكون في الكوفي شوب that they don't have standards for their performance or for their activities compared to those branched companies of coffee shop. ليش؟ There they follow strict standards. الجرايندينج حق البن كيف يكون، even the tools that do excuse me, the tools they use for doing the scale or doing the measurements or doing the functions are designed for the job. So they remove the يعني خلينا نقول اللي هو اجتهاد الموظف إنه هو يجتهد فيها. here you see sometimes the variability في التيست حتى for restaurants that they have standard process and you can measure it to maybe some restaurants when you go it the next time or the followed maybe after 1 month or you go it occasionally, sometimes the taste is not the same. And this is, if you go back, you see it for طبعا many reasons. And one of the reasons in the variability is that they don't have standards for the tasks. Okay, one of the reasons they don't have standards for the activities or the tasks. Everything has to be standardized, and the work study help you also to set up this standard for the activities needed in your job. The work study divided into method study to simplify the job and develop more economical methods of going it, like يعني implement it, or time study to determine how long it should take to carry out. And both of those leads to higher productivity. Higher productivity، إنتاجية أعلى وأفضل. يعني either method study، إما طريقة العمل، زي لما قلنا كيف عملية طحن البن في القهوة، الدرجة حقت الطحن، كم تخلي درجة الغليان للموية. يعني this is a method. أنا بعطي بس example about the coffee shop doesn't mean يعني you can go in very complex scale. ممكن تروح لشيء معقد like in the manufacturing. Okay, this is a method study, and also there is time study. for that activity or that job, you have to set up time. Otherwise, you will be facing variability in the cycle time of your process, and there will be waits longer and sometimes wait shorter, depending on the person who's performing the job. Maybe you watch a session on the quality improvement methods about the Lean Six Sigma, how Toyota, they come up with methods or concept that to have a standardized time for every small detailed job in developing or manufacturing their cars, and it become a Toyota production system. It's a whole well-known system, and many companies carry it over, and it was one of the roots where the lean came from. Okay, so these are the work study is divided either to method study or time study. Okay, the importance of work study, as we said, it improves or has a higher productivity, and we will focus about this in the coming slide. But it has also other importance. As we said, we will have systematic, it has both systematic in the investigation and the development of the solution. So one of the things about the work study, in analyzing the problem or solving the problem, it follows a systematic approach. It can contribute to the improvement of safety and working conditions. So also the safety will be improved. Okay. And if we go back here, let's go back here. If we go to this method study, if I designed a method study about the task or the activity in a such way that to be protecting staff he's working to be injured, so I'm improving the safety of my working condition. فأنا أعمل a description, you have to be wearing a safety clothes, using safety gloves in doing this task. This is one of the specification of the work study for a certain activity. So I'm improving the safety. It's a tool which can be applied everywhere, whether manufacturing, service, healthcare, service, education, industry, any industry you can use. And this is the how most of the industrial engineering, even if it came from the manufacturing at the beginning, then most of the tools and methods adapt or modified to be applied in other industries. It's relatively cheap and easy. So all what you need to do a method for every activity, or you do time study. So it's kind of, it doesn't need that much of cost to develop it. We will focus about the first one here about the productivity, and let's talk a little more about the productivity. The productivity, level out, level in. يعني خليه at this as simple as this one. So let's define it as the level output of a given process relative to the level of input process, can refer to individual production or service operation. المخرجات، مستوى المخرجات مقارنة بالمدخلات. Productivity is an important metric. وحدة قياس مهمة جدا in work systems, because improving productivity is the means by which worker compensation can be increased without increasing the cost of products and service they produce. إيش معنى الكلام ده؟ If I improve the productivity, I don't have to hire more people. I can pay a little more to the exist people. So in this way, أنا كافأت موظفيني بشكل أفضل ماليا، و I didn't have to overcost my service or my production by hiring other people that will cost me more. Why? Because I have a better productivity. إنتاجيتي أفضل. Okay. The most common productivity measure is labor productivity. The most common productivity, it's very important, is the labor productivity. Why? Think about it. Why is the labor productivity is one considered to be the most important? Machines productivity is calculated. It comes in the manual. You can read it in the book that comes with the machine. The human productivity, on the other hand, as we said, the human has more complexity, variability, and the human interaction. The human has emotions, and many things can affect the productivity. So that's why the most common productivity measure is the labor productivity. And one of those methods that determine the labor productivity called the Labor Productivity Index, LPI. There are other methods that measure the human or the labor productivity. This is one only. One. You will learn about maybe others in the work study course. Okay? LPI equal LPRT over LPRB. This is very basic and simple method you will learn today, just to, as we say, to touch the base of this work study under the area of human factors and safety. LPI, Labor Productivity Index, that's the stands of that acronym. LPRT, the productivity ratio for period T. LPRB is the labor productivity ratio for base period اللي هي الفترة اللي بتقيس عليها وغالبا بتكون فترة سابقة. اوكي فليبر LPRT ratio فهي معدل الإنتاجية ل let's say 2021. labor LPRB, it's a ratio, for example, for 2019 or 2018 for a base period. So انت بتقيس the labor productivity of now for time T, and when I said now, it doesn't have to be on this current year. It can to be comparing 2001 to 1999. Okay, both of them in the past where I'm giving this lecture, but one of them considered to be T and the other considered to be base period. Okay, so just to get one LPRT, time that the recent one, the LPRB is for the time base اللي انت بتقيس عليه. Okay. Okay. There is an example, so let's do an example how we calculate or use this method. During the base year, and خلاص, when it says the base year, identify when or where is the LPRB. In a small steel mill, 326,000 tons of steel were produced using 203,000 labor hours. تم إنتاج 326 طن من الحديد أو الستيل using 203,000 ساعة عمل. In the next year, see this example, it can be during 2020 and give you all the information. In 2021 and give you the other information. Is the same concept. Okay, the output was 341,000 tons using 246,000 labor hours. Determine A, the labor productivity ratio for the base year. B, the labor productivity ratio for the second year. And C, the productivity index for the second year. So how we calculate the labor productivity ratio for the base year? The base year considered to be what? This one here. or this one here, the labor productivity ratio for the base period is the LPRB. Okay, so you divide the 326,000 over the 203 labor hours. So you divide the base here, the number of steel you produced over the number of hours, and you find the base اللي هو الريشيو للبيز LPRB. For the second year or for the next year, which is the LBRT, you will divide the 341,000 over the 246,000. إنتاجية الحديد كم طن لكم ساعة عمل. To find the ratio اللي هو المعدل كم 1.3 tons per labor hour. نبغى المعدل لأنه remember here we are dealing with ratio. Okay, we're not dealing with quantity, we're not dealing with tons and hours, we are dealing if it's tons and hours كم طن للساعة كيلومتر للساعة. So it has to be ratio معدل يعني يتغير ما بين variables. Okay. Okay, so let's move on. This is we have the labor, the LPR for the base, the LPR for T. Now we want to find the LPI, the labor productivity index. So basically you divide the base, you divide the T over the base. So you divide 1.38 divided by 1.6 to find the productivity index for the 2 years comparison here, which is 0.86 as a percentage. You would multiply it with 100 to get 86.3. That's the index for the productivity. يعني هذه خلينا نقول قياس المرجعي لك لإنتاجيتك خلال العامين هذه. So I can say whether it's increased or decreased. Okay. So the comments here, the productivity went down in the second year. As you can see, the ratio in the base was 1.6 and reduced to 1.3. Again, and we will explain it again. I have production quantity or quantity of steel produced in base year. This base year happened somewhere before. Where is the word here comes? Where is the next year? As we said, this could be 2019, this one 2020 or 2025, any year after is the same concept. We are not calculating time here, but we are considering the previous time as the base and the coming time or the future time as the time T. Okay. البرودكشن كان 326,000 طن للحديد أو الستيل. وكم ساعة عمل كان عندنا؟ 203,000 labor hours. You ask yourself, is this a ratio? No. This is a production quantity and number of hours for that production. So to get the ratio, I have to divide the production units over the number of hours needed to find a ratio. معدل الإنتاجية. معدل الإنتاجية كم ساعة استغرقت لإنهاء مشروع التخرج أو لمشروع مادة الانترودكشن to IE. فمشروع واحد quantity كم ساعة عمل تقسمه على عدد ساعات العمل. This is a ratio. Okay. 5 ساعات للمشروع. كم ساعة استغرق إنهاء برنامج الهندسة الصناعية؟ 166 hours. When you divide it over the courses, you can get a ratio معدل تقريبي أو خلينا نقول معدل لكم الساعات المستغرقة لكل كورس. but now the courses are different in terms of the number of hours. لكن by dividing the 166 over the courses, you get ratio for the number of the hours over the courses. The same if you go and apply it to خلينا نقول traveling distance. You travel 500 kilometers, okay? And how much time needed from you? Needed from you, let's say 3 hours and a half. So you divided the distance over the hours, so you can get a ratio how many kilometers you passed for every hour, and you can break it down even to minutes or seconds. Okay, هذا المبدأ حق الريشيو. And here when it says you find the labor productivity ratio, ايش معناها؟ we divide the quantity over the hours، لأن هو الريشيو between number of tons على number of hours needed. For the base year is given here, the information. For the second year, which is the next year referring to the same, the 341 over the 246. After you got the two ratios, first you can tell from the beginning here the ratio, in the second year it's been reduced. But to get the productivity index, اللي هو خلينا نقول معيار اللي انت بتستخدمه للproductivity, you divide the LPR for T that you found in part B, you divide it on A based on the formula here, the LPRT للsecond year divided by the LPRB for the base year. And when you divide them, you get the index, which is 0.863, and that's mean 86.3% is the index for the production between the base year and the 2 year, that you can use it when you compare to other 2 years, or you want to compare the base year with the third year, and you see how is the index is different. But to compare or to make a decision or make comments about the level, whether it's increased or decreased, by calculating the ratio for each one, you can tell the difference, okay? And here by you dividing the T over the base, that you get the index for the productivity ratio, okay? Okay, moving to the another concept, which is we have postponed it to here. We talked about the human factors and ergonomics, and the name of the area was human factors and safety. And here we will talk a little bit about safety. As I said, there is a whole course talked about the safety. You can take it as an elective course and learn more about the safety. The safety, it's important to all engineering disciplines, not only the industrial. But as we said from the beginning of this course, how the industrial integrated with many systems, also it carries the safety as one of the areas that covered, or sub areas in the industrial engineering. Safety is a freedom from those conditions that can cause death, injury, occupational illness, damage or loss of equipment or property, or damage to the environment. هو انك تكون الفريدم ما يكون عندك conditions اللي هي ظهور الحالات هذه اللي ممكن تسبب لا سمح الله موت، إصابات، إعاقة، دمج اللي هو برضو يعني خلينا نقول ضرر، خسارة، سواء لإكويبمنت أو لمنشأة أو لهيومن أو لإنفايرومنت، any. فالسيفتي الفريدوم من هذه الحالات. Okay, هذا in general the definition of safety. Safety functions are many, but those are very common. يعني وظائف وظائف we're not talking about jobs يعني خصائص أو المهام للسيفتي include industrial safety السلامة أو المصنعية. They call it also occupational safety اللي هي الصحة المهنية يسموها. property conservation حفظ المنشآت والممتلكات من الدمج. Safety in material handling when you transfer material that cannot be exposed to heat. In the pandemic of COVID-19, the vaccine of Pfizer has to be kept in a certain temperature that below zero, or I'm not recalling the exact temperature, but it's very cold temperature. An incident happened for I believe in somewhere in the States in US. The electricity went off in a hospital, or I think where was it kept some vaccine shots of the Pfizer, and the temperature went above the specification where that material should kept. So all those vaccines were terminated because they cannot use them anymore. So the safety in material handling, industrial hygiene, قلنا السلامة اللي هي الصحية أو المهنية. The environmental control that if you the water اللي هو distillation ولا تحلية المياه بيصدر منها غازات. So it has to be controlled so it doesn't damage the environment. And now when we talk about the environment, it doesn't have to be the environment of the global or the earth. Will this apply to, but also the environment can happen in your home environment or your classroom environment. Okay, so the environment, أي surrounding considered to be environment. Operational health and safety information systems, worker compensation claim management اللي هو المقصود بمطالبات وتعويضات، إدارة تعويضات الوركرز. لأنه السيفتي also establish how workers should be compensated when injured during the work. So they even establish how the standards and how they should be compensated. So إدارة هذا الشيء also under the safety functions. Okay. Safety and security. This is very interesting, and I think you will like it to understand يعني or distinguish between safety and security. This figure here shows the system and the environment when it's affecting the system. The protection from the environment to your system considered to be security. And when the system is affecting your environment, the protection from the hazard that comes from your systems to the environment, that protection considered to be the safety. So the safety does not cause harm to the environment, and the security is the protection of your system from the environment. But, and here is but it's very important, environment, it can be also system. Your environment, it can be a system. For example, the school, it's an environment. The university campus is an environment. The highways is environment, and also you inside the car, it's environment surrounding you. So both safety and security present a protection of one system from another. فالمقصود here الهدف من الكلام ده إنه safety والsecurity both of them considered to be الحماية من نظام إلى نظام. As the car is a system itself, a road is system. A road لو كان فيه damage, it will affect the car. الكار لو there was a failure happened, it will affect the road and the other people in the road. A driver who's driving the car can affect the car and also affect the road. والدرايفر himself he is a human, يعني خلينا نقول organisms and system himself, يعني لأنه نظام هو في الآخر حيوي as a human. we're talking here to give you the idea. Just we explained here why they are different if there were no system, the environment was not system, and in most of the time the environment it's a system itself. So here it only shows that if it's individual or is not a system, then the security protection is against something comes from outside, and a protection that comes from your system to the outside, the protection of that considered to be the safety. But as we said, since the environment is most of the time its system, so the protection is present from one system to another. يعني الحماية من system that don't affect another one. And the protection means here is the protection from any type of hazard, لأي نوع من المخاطر. And when we talk about hazard, the hazard can come in different shapes. Can come in a biological hazards, يعني اللي هي العضوية خلينا نقول أو الحيوية زي الأمراض، الفيروسز، الحيوانات، الحشرات اللي بتنقل أمراض. chemical and dust hazard، المواد الكيميائية، الأتربة، الغبار، cleaning products. يعني that's why there is a hazard standards for the materials usually, so you don't use them and cause damage to the environment or to the human. Ergonomic hazards, هذا very interesting, and also you will study this in the ergonomic course when you take it in very details about the ergonomic hazards, because repetition of some tedious tasks اللي هي بتأثر على خلينا نقول structure of your muscles or your bones or your nerve system, it can cause hazard. lifting يعني اللي هو حمل أوزان ثقيلة في العمل لفترات متعددة caused also hazard. That's why you see sometimes there are some job people retired in early ages compared to others. يعني على سبيل المثال الطيارين الكابتنز أو حتى اللي هم الفلايت اتندنتس، التيرن اوفر خلينا نقول العمر الافتراضي المهني أقل نسبيا مثلا، يعني for example from يعني a lawyer, whereas يعني the job is different. The ergonomic hazards is more, the fatigue more. يعني don't forget the pilots, they go over different time zones in very short time, and that causes them jet lags over the time, sleeping disorder, and so on. But this is not يعني only example. Others, يعني as I said, there are examples of, for example, jobs that carrying lifting material or heavy material, اللي هو زي البنائين ولا اللي بيشتغلوا في عملية البناء، بيشيل اسمنت، بيشيل حديد، وبيطلع بينزل. فيعني you will expect the ergonomic hazard in those type of jobs. So that another type of hazards, and as I said, it will be explored in details in the ergonomic courses. Physical hazards also, for example, like noise. We're not talking here about the body. We're talking about the, for example, temperature is extremely high or cold, noise, exposure to يعني اللي هو الراديشنز ولا الأشعة اللي تحت الحمراء اللي هي اي في، خلينا نقول اللي هو حتى البنفسجيه اللي يعني بتاثر على السكنز. ف this is also physical hazards. Safety hazards like slip، يعني ممكن تصير في ارض تكون يعني just wet floor، falls، faulty equipment. These are safety hazards. Another type of the safety hazards, work organization hazards, and things that cause stress, and the stress could cause medical conditions. We see people that due to stress they يعني been in ICU due to heart pressure, high يعني blood pressure rate, or diabetes if they have diabetes and they've been through stress. From these type of hazards you should be aware of. So when you study the safety, you can also analyze them and see how you deal with them, and يعني protect your working environment from them, and put standards on how you deal with the occurrence of the hazards. You should have standardized process for every hazard could happen in the, your working environment. For example, يعني chemical products or the cleaning products, even the companies that produce these products, they give you some instructions when hazards appeared. For example, if this يعني material touch your eyes, then maybe wash it with a warm or cold, or put some يعني kind of eye drop, or they give you some kind of instructions. And also they give you, if things didn't fix by using these instructions, then you have to check with them specialist for this condition. So even that, most of the time they give it to you in the label of the product, so they don't just leave it that. That's one of the function of the safety engineer who should work in designing the product, or designing the safety policy and procedure in the company or the organization. If you want to learn more about the safety, there are very good two resources where you can even train and be certified for occupational safety and health, whether OSHA, Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or the National Examination Board in Occupational Safety and Health, NIBOSH. Those both are organizations specialized in occupational safety and health. You can visit their websites, and there are many programs, trainings available in their website or other website that prepare you to be certified in safety. I hope by this slide you enjoyed this session about human factors and safety. We've been through some sub methods in this area, like defining what is the human factors and ergonomics. Then we went through the work study, and we talked about the type of the work study, also what we use the work study for, and one of it was the productivity, and we gave an example of how we use the productivity, calculate the labor productivity index as one of the methods that calculate the labor productivity. And then we talked about, or we ended about this topic about the safety, just in general, what is the safety and type of hazards. I hope you enjoyed this lecture, and you learned today something new in industrial engineering. I will see you in another session. Wish you all the best.